Good afternoon. I'm Dara Bunjon. I'm the food enthusiast here at J More Living. I'm a food writer, food stylist, PR maven, and a frustrated baker. Those of you joining us live on Facebook, drop your comments and questions for my guest or myself into the comment box, and we will check from time to time. Yesterday was the 56th anniversary of Earth Day, which started in 1970. And it is Earth Week through the 25th. What better time to stop and think about what each of us can do to make a change? In 1967, the film The Graduate, Benjamin had just graduated college. They were throwing him a party, and a family friend pulled him aside. The friend says, "I have one word to say to you, just one word, plastics, implying a great future." What we've learned is that plastics have proliferated our lives and how it is harming our earth and our health. So where do we start to eliminate plastic from our daily lives? Today's guest is Anne-Marie Bonneau, aka Zero Waste Chef, an award-winning cookbook author, blogger, fermenter, and sourdough baker. Anne-Marie has lived plastic-free since 2011. Through social media, her blog, and her book, The Zero Waste Chef, plant-forward recipes and tips for a sustainable kitchen and planet. Anne-Marie shows others how reducing their trash not only benefits the planet, but also satisfies their taste buds, improves their well-being, and boosts their bank accounts. Let's welcome Anne-Marie.
Thank you, Dara.
Hi, Anne-Marie. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm excited to have you on. It was actually a friend of mine who follows you who said, you need to have Anne-Marie on. And she was absolutely right. I started digging into all this and I went, wow. I typically ask certain questions at the beginning of the show. So, what's on your plate today to do other than doing the show?
Oh, let's see. So I'm doing a bit of work for an organization that is trying to change policy around single-use plastic in organizations where I live in Silicon Valley. So I volunteered to work on the communications for that. So I really have to get to work on that. And if I have time, I'd like to work out in my yard for at least an hour a day. Haven't done that yet, so it just helps me retain my sanity. I need to have a couple of plants to plant, and I need to do some weeding. And
But it's interesting. I heard you talk before, you go to the garden centers and you're picking up plants and plastic.
oh yeah,
Plastic
yep,
is everywhere.
yep,
And you just root things. You start them off and you root them and
yeah. Some things. Yep, I have a goose. I think it's a gooseberry plant. I'm trying to root right now on my kitchen counter. That one you can just apparently put in water and it will grow. And people give me plants. The nursery that I love around here, they will take back the pots to reuse. So, and then the city my mom lives in Canada, there's a really great nursery near her, and everything's in paper, those paper pots, just about everything. And they just break down in the soil.
right. Um, Let me tell folks that you live in Northern California, so you have gorgeous weather and a lemon tree in the backyard. Not us here on the East Coast, Mid-Atlantic. Tell me, you mentioned your mother. Let's talk about growing up in Canada. Was it a frugal kitchen? Did your mother, stretch whatever she had? I understand you have you can take a lemon and you can do three or four things with one lemon. How was your family table? Talk about that.
my mom is not frugal at all. But my dad was. My dad was the most frugal person I ever met. Growing up, I was embarrassed, especially as a teenager. Now I think I've outdone him. So yeah, my dad was super frugal. My mom, not so much. But so my both parents grew up during the Depression, and so my dad just lived his whole life that way. His mother, my grandmother, she would make things out of nothing. He told me, you get all of this from grandmère. So I remember when I was little, sitting on the floor watching her crocheting plastic bags into little rugs. So she'd somehow roll them up, or maybe she cut them into strips. I don't know. Because I was really little, and then she'd turn them into these little rugs. And my dad grew up in a French Canadian family. There were 13 kids. So
Ooh.
yeah, or 12, and they adopted one. And so they didn't have any money. So my dad told me his job growing up was to go down to the abattoir and collect the pig's blood so he could bring it home to his mother, who would make blood pudding. So, she she was extremely frugal.
Right. And your mother, was she the cook in the family? Was your father who?
No, my mom was the cook. My mom's a really good cook. She's a fabulous baker. She turned 94 earlier this month, and she just stopped baking, I'd say a year ago. It's just too much for her, but up until then, her pastry is fantastic. It's super flaky. I just asked my daughter yesterday. I said, "Do you have Granny's butter tart recipe? Because I really need that." And she said she would text it to me, which she didn't. I have to get back on her.
Right.
So yeah, my mom was a good cook.
Uh, we said you're Canadian. What brought you to the US and why California? Just curious.
My husband's job. So he works in tech, and we came for the dot-com boom in 98, and we were going to stay for 4 years. And we're still here. The weather's like you mentioned. It's
Right.
incredible. I'm from near Toronto, and although it is nice, when I'm up there and it's snowing, I really like it, because I don't have to drive in it or shovel it. But so I do miss the snow. I felt guilty that my kids didn't grow up skating, but
Well, it
yeah,
saved their legs.
yeah,
You were looking out for them. You were looking out for them.
that's right.
And is it two grown daughters that you have now?
Yep.
Okay. Just want to make sure my notes are right. Um, let's talk recycling, which is going to
Okay.
bring us to plastics. But we were talking before going on air, to shorten a long story, how different municipalities and states and have different rules about recycling what goes where. Do you want to tell the story that you just told me about the
Well,
meeting?
right. So my daughter works in waste, my older daughter, and we went to this conference for recycling and waste professionals. She invited me to go for one night, and this was for people all over the state. So from Southern California, Northern California, and every city, every municipality has its own rules. And we were standing in line for something next to the recycling bins, and she looked at them and she said, "Look, these are all wrong." People had put some people had put the wrong things in the wrong bins because the rules are different. Even where I live, the in my city, we can't recycle the boxes from like butter. The paper boxes, they can't go in the recycling. And then one city over, you can. So my mom's city, you can recycle paper egg cartons. Here we can't. So it just, it's very confusing and the rules vary. And, even some professionals can't or they get confused.
Right. Well, people shouldn't feel bad if they're putting this, that, and the other. Our recycle bin there says, even though we have something plastic that says it's number one, my bin says no plastics.
Mm.
But number one, these numbers tell you or supposedly imply something. Actually, I learned something. This fellow Gary Anderson, who now lives in Baltimore, in 1970, he won a contest by Container Corporation of America. He designed the recycling logo.
Oh, the chasing arrows.
Yes,
Oh,
he was in school at Southern California. It came up. I think he won $2,500, and he was an architectural student. Just another piece of trivia to add
oh,
to.
interesting. Yeah, I
Uh,
didn't know that.
yeah, and plastics. I'm so focused on that at the moment. Um, there isn't anything that I'm not touching right now that isn't plastic.
Hmm.
It's right here, my little ring light, the frames for the computer screen, the phone. Why is recycling not as successful as it should be? Is there an answer to that?
Well, the system is overwhelmed by single-use plastics. It's impossible to recycle at all. Plastic was never designed to be recycled. It was designed to be thrown away. Companies, so Make America Beautiful. It's an organization that tells people don't litter. Corporations came up with that. Corporations are behind Keep America Beautiful, like Pepsi, McDonald's, Anheuser-Busch, a tobacco company, Keurig, all of these companies, they push the onus on to the consumers to clean up their mess. So recycling, it can't work. It's just the system is overwhelmed by all of the plastic we produce. The recycling rate in the US is about 5 to 6% for plastic. For aluminum, metals, paper, it's much higher. But for plastic, it's very low. And then when we recycle the plastic, that releases microplastics into the atmosphere. It's a very dirty process. I think if you do have plastic, you should still put it in the bin. Some of it might get recycled. I think number ones and number twos have a higher rate of being recycled. I think number sevens are, I don't even know if we can put them in our bin here.
I've
So
never seen a seven.
yeah, it might be, I'm not sure, it might be styrofoam or something, which is a type of plastic.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's reduction is the answer. Reducing the amount of plastic we produce.
Well, that brings me back to 2011 when you
Mhm.
said, how can I make this better? And I think part of it, what you're about is sustainability. Um, Life starts in the kitchen. Is that where you started about the plastics? And what did you start with and how has it grown? That's a broad question, but
Yeah, I started in the kitchen. So back in 2011, I was reading about plastic pollution. I knew plastic wasn't great, but I thought, well, I put it in the recycling bin, it gets turned into other things, and I discovered that's not the case. So my older daughter, the one who works in sustainability now, she was 16 at the time, and I said, we have to break up with plastic. And she said, okay, great. And then, we went on our first shopping trip at the grocery store, and like everything was in plastic. And I said to her, this is impossible. How are we ever going to do this? And so she actually started to do the research, and we started by doing a plastic audit every week. She would gather our plastic and take a picture of it. And we realized, so most of this is coming from the kitchen. It's food packaging. And so we started there. Plus, we're big foodies, so that's how it started. And, even if you're a huge, minimalist who can fit all of your belongings in a backpack, you still have to eat. So I think the kitchen is a great place to start. Also, I didn't know this at the time, but the petrochemicals in the plastic, they migrate to the food. And so that's another reason. And all the microplastics too. Every time you tear open a bag of something, it sheds microplastics that go flying into the air, and we inhale them and ingest them. And just the scientists are only now figuring out what that means for human health, and it's not looking great.
Oh. The I think to bring out, you started the Zero Waste Chef 2014.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what you say about zero waste, nobody can be 100%. It's just a goal.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, people often, or sometimes they get really hung up on that term zero waste. I think it kind of stresses people out, but it's just a goal. I may not bring any plastic into my home, but anything I buy out in the supply chain, there's waste associated with it. And actually there's more waste, I think, downstream, or is it called upstream? More waste in the manufacturing and shipping and packaging, all of that. There's more waste involved there than in what I bring home.
And I think the majority of your shopping, and because you're in California, you have, not that we don't have it, is farmers markets, bulk stores. I think what's interesting is a group of you at the farmers market, because you can sew, not everybody can sew, made these produce bags out of old linens and things of that nature and gave them out at the farmers market so people aren't carrying plastic, aren't, just trying to eliminate it. I'm a single person. I have a freezer that's yay big, and I have scraps from food. I make soup stock, but eventually I have no more room. But people can take advantage of, if you don't have the farmers market in the winter, you have CSAs, which are community supported agriculture. It's taking advantage of what you have and making something out of it. And I want to stress for people that zerowastechef.com, which is up in the comments section, are many recipes. And you're into fermenting, you're into sourdough starters, and people can learn how to do all that. I'm not sure what my question is. I'm just rambling on here. About food waste, because that's really some of the things that we're talking about here. How much waste is there, an average family of four? How much food waste is there? Do you know?
Yeah, so there's this great organization called ReFed, and they focus on food waste. And I think their number for either 2024 or 2025 was the average family of four in the US spends over $2,700 a year on food that they do not eat.
Ooh.
Yeah, so over $200 a month. And food prices, they've only been going up. So I'm curious whether that number has gone up or if people are trying to waste less because they want to save money. But it's a lot of money.
Well, I think, I was looking over your recipes on the website and lemons. Okay, so you can preserve the lemons, you can use the zest, you can freeze that. Um, you can take part of it and I'm just reading, these are all the things you can do with lemons. You can make a lemon syrup out of the rinds and the pulp from making the other things that you make or juicing. Am I missing anything else on lemons?
Uh, you can make candied lemon peel or orange peel. Yeah. Oh, so good. Uh, let's see what else. Even just juicing them and freezing the lemon juice. Um, you covered a lot. I just squeezed some lemons this morning before this.
Yeah. Yeah, because the reason I was looking it up is I bought a bunch of lemons. I thought I'd get into preserving lemons, and then I saw, oh, I need to get this equipment, I need to get that, blah, blah, blah. And I went, oh.
Oh, you really
So,
just need a big jar.
but doesn't it have to be? I have to go look at your recipe because things I was seeing online, I just felt overwhelmed by it. But
Well, some people use an airlock. I bet that's what you saw. Yeah, I
yeah,
don't bother. I don't use those. I mean they're good, but I'm like my dad, I'm frugal. I don't buy I don't buy all the stuff.
right. All right. Let's talk jars.
Ooh.
Ooh, because I've started, if I have a nice jar, I transfer the beans from the plastic into the jar, out of that. But you could just the jars alone when you're getting products, you freeze in jars, you don't freeze in plastic, you don't freeze in aluminum foil. Um, Everything's in glass so you can see. How big a freezer do you have?
Oh, people ask me that all the time. I just have a standard freezer. I mean, maybe it's a little, might be on the bigger side. I mean, compared to refrigerators 20 years ago, I think all refrigerators are bigger now, and so the freezers are bigger. But it's just so it's a bottom freezer. You pull it out, and it has a top shelf that you can push back, and a bottom shelf with a divider. So I don't have to stack everything on top of, it's everything jumbled up in there. It is kind of organized with the shelves. I I don't freeze things in there for, like 9 months, except for my tomatoes. So I'm constantly recycling, taking
Okay,
things out and putting things in. And so the stuff doesn't stay in there that long. And just this past couple of weeks, I've been trying to clear it out to make space because soon there'll be things available at the farmer's market that I'll want to freeze.
right. And
So,
the whole system is to buy in season. That's,
yeah, well, I mean, and I can do that here. I know it's much harder on the East Coast.
but there are CSAs and taking the
Hmm.
scraps. But I did that for a while. I'm always making soup. So saving those scraps from the carrots that I washed and, scraped and the onion bits and that. even I'll make shrimp stock. I don't throw those shells away. I'll make a shrimp stock out of that. There's so much that I don't know where to go. Um, if somebody wanted to say, start now, any hints or suggestions for them to, what can I do? Look, every little bit helps. It's something
Hmm.
that's not in a landfill, it's not in the ocean. Um, and it helps your family and friends just to benefit. What tips can you give to people?
Well, when it comes to food, I think the easiest way to reduce the amount of food that's going to waste is to cook something with the food that you already have on hand. So most of us, if we were taught to cook, we were told, look up a recipe that sounds appetizing, and then jot down all of the ingredients, go to
Right?
the store, buy the ingredients, bring them home, cook the dish, put the leftovers in the fridge, put the little bits of leftover ingredients in the fridge. Well, if you do that a few times a week, then you're going to have a pile of food on hand, and chances are some of that's going to go to waste. So instead, if you look at what you have on hand and then that determine what you're going to cook next, you will slash the amount of food going to waste and you'll save a lot of money. And I think it makes cooking more fun because you look and you see, oh, well, like how can I creatively turn this into something? And you don't have to cook anything elaborate. Like I also make a lot of soup because it's a great way to use up this and that. And it's delicious. I love soup. I love having a pot of soup in the fridge that I can just
And
heat up and yeah.
and then you have that sourdough bread with some nice butter to go along with it.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
That's
So
so
that's a oh sorry, go ahead.
no, no. Uh, were you into sourdough before COVID?
I was. Yeah. So I had baked bread since my kids were little. And my mother-in-law showed me how to do it. And then at the time, this was 30 years ago. So at the time, she had owned a bakery and she said, but a real baker will capture their own yeast. And I thought, what is she talking about? Capture yeast? Like, do I get a net, run around? And then, yeah, just when I decided to break up with plastic, I had been buying yeast at this little store near us that had it in plastic bags. And I thought, I know there's a way you can do this. And then I won't have to buy these bags. And I looked into it and I realized, oh, sourdough. And so my first starter died, although she was just fine. Now that I look back, I just didn't know what I was doing. And then my second starter I made in 2014, Eleanor. She turned 12 this year. And yeah, and then during COVID, people started sending me on Instagram, they started tagging me in all of the pictures of their starters. And I thought, what is going on? And the statistics on my blog for anything sourdough just went through the roof. And then I realized, oh, there's no yeast. People can't buy yeast. And so that's when, yeah, the whole sourdough thing exploded.
You say that, I remember getting, here we go, a tiny little plastic container of yeast. It was like a tablespoon. And I don't know, it was like a junkie. Here's some yeast. You couldn't get your hands on it. Meeting in
Yeah,
dark alleys for, a couple tablespoons of
yeah,
yeast.
yeah.
I, I think that's funny that you named your yeast. Do a lot of people name, I mean, their starter?
They do. They do. Um, the food editor from the New York Times, this was before COVID, I think. He asked people to send him stories about their sourdough starters. And then he wrote a piece on them. And the names they were awesome. There was one, it was William Butler Yeast. And oh, Joan of Starch. Yeah, yeah. People do name them.
Oh,
People come up with the best names.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, that's great. That's great. Um, you've been interviewed so many times. Is there a question you wish people would have asked you, but nobody has?
Oh, wow. That's a good question.
Well, we can let it rest and we can go to some other things. I sort of changed up. Usually my last question is, what didn't I ask you I should have? But I think you have so much to say. You have the blog, the website, zerowastechef.com. You have a Substack, and however anybody wants to reach you, they can go through the website to the recipes. The Instagram is Zero Waste Chef as well. All the links are there on your blog, website, recipes galore. And if you're interested in sourdough starter, I think you've done some video on that. Am I correct?
I've done a whole bunch of workshops. So Zoom classes, free Zoom classes, most of them free. Where people just come with their flour. They show up with their flour and water in a jar and learn how to make a starter. I don't think I actually have a, I mean, on YouTube, I have some of those recordings posted. They're long, because the class is like 45 minutes, but you can jump along. Um, the hardest part about sourdough, I think, is just getting the starter made, getting it going, because people often think, it doesn't smell great after a few days, which is a good sign, but people think, oh, it's ruined, and they toss it. So, but once you have the starter, I think that's the most difficult part. And it's not even that difficult. But when you're
But you
just
have to
starting
feed
out,
it.
it's confusing. Yep, yep, you have to, it's like a pet. Once you have it, you're committed. You have to take care of it.
How, I don't know. Do you feed it to get it started, or do you over the years, the 12 years, you're constantly feeding it?
So you just take a little, so I have a jar in the kitchen right now, little jar that I fed this morning. And tomorrow I'll feed it again. I'll take a spoonful of starter out of the jar and I'll feed it fresh flour and water. And the bacteria and yeast, the good bacteria and yeast that are in the starter, they eat the carbohydrates in the flour and they emit gases and acids and they reproduce and you get this, you know, the starter will rise, it will bubble up, and then your yeast is ready to bake something with.
Hmm.
But and so you take a little out and you feed it, and you do that every day. If you need a break, you can put it in the refrigerator for a week or so if you don't want to keep feeding it. And yeah, so I've been doing that for 12 years, over 12 years, which is young compared to some starters. My sister has her mother-in-law's starter from the 70s.
Really?
Yep. And there's a museum in Belgium, a sourdough starter museum, and they have a couple in there that are like well over 100 years old.
Wow.
And
Hmm.
so I imagine there's somebody working there who has to feed all of these starters every
I'm,
day.
I'm sure. Every day. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Unless you can refrigerate them, you get a little break. But yeah, you have to, it's alive. And so
You
you
have
have
to
to
keep
keep it.
feeding.
Yep.
Yeah. Anne-Marie, we come to my final questions. I'm sure we could go on for hours because you know so much and have accomplished so much. But that's for people to connect with you on your website and your Substack and learn more. Go out and buy the book. Um, and that is the Zero Waste Chef, Plant Forward Recipes and Tips for a Sustainable Kitchen and Planet. So that book is available. You can get that, and links are all up, so you'll be able to connect there. My final questions. If you could
Okay.
go back and give your 18-year-old self a piece of advice, what would it be?
Okay. So this probably doesn't, you've probably had people give you more profound answers than this. Mine would be don't buy a lot of stuff. I feel like I have a part-time job decluttering. We have all of this stuff in the garage from when our kids were little. I found the receipt for the beds that we bought our kids when our younger daughter graduated to like a big girl bed. So, you know, don't buy so much stuff because later on you have to get rid of it somehow. And your future self will thank your younger self for not accumulating too much stuff. I mean, it's expensive. And I tell this to my kids, but I wouldn't have listened at their age either. But I tell them like, just don't buy too much stuff. But if you're not willing to pack it up and move it multiple times, then maybe that's a good sign, not to buy it in the first place. I mean, I had to buy my daughter a bed, but so maybe that wasn't the best example. But yeah,
Yeah,
there's just like stuff out there's
stuff. Yeah, we
yeah, so much
accumulated. I think,
stuff.
didn't George Carlin do a whole routine on stuff?
Oh, probably.
I think he did. I can't remember it off the top of my head.
I have to look that up.
Yeah, stuff.
Yeah.
I moved this stuff and that stuff. I think so. All right. If you could wake up tomorrow morning with a new talent, what would the new talent be?
Oh, well, probably drawing or painting. I mentioned my plants earlier, so we've been starting in what 2022. I've been planting natives in the yard, and now we're attracting more birds and insects. And I'd love to be able to draw those plants and wildlife. So
Hmm,
maybe I should start. Maybe I should take a class or something.
yeah.
Learn how to do that.
Um, it's a start, even if it's a stick figure.
Yeah,
Look at what Picasso did. People would have looked at that in his day and going, "You're not an artist." So you never know.
yeah.
Um, what two things must be in your fridge?
I drink a lot of tea, so I need some milk for my tea. And then some sort of fat. So leftover, from cooking whatever, chicken or my daughter cooks a lot of broth. When she's here, she'll bring it with her. And she after she has made it, she puts it in the fridge and the fat all rises to the top. And so like I take all of that. It's so delicious and I cook things in it. And that's stuff that in the old days I would have just thrown out.
Ah, but you see, in my neighborhood, we call that schmaltz.
Yep.
Put a little onion in it, and then you have gribbiness, which is the little fried bits of onion and skin.
Mhm. Yeah.
Okay. Am I dating myself? Okay. What is the best bite you've had all week?
So I didn't think I had anything. I had to make dinner and I was like, oh, what are we gonna make? Or what am I gonna make? I did have a pastry shell in the freezer, and I thought, like, I really need to use this up, but what on earth am I gonna put in it? And I thought I didn't need another sweet, so I thought I gotta make something savory. Well, then I realized I had a bunch of onions. So I caramelized a big pile of onions and I made an onion quiche, and it was amazing. And I have leftover caramelized onions. I'm making pizza tonight for dinner. My daughter calls it my trad wife pizza because I make the sauce and I make the crust. So I'll put some of those caramelized onions on that. So yeah. I thought, oh, I don't have enough stuff to make a quiche, and then I realized, wait, I have all those onions.
I did a whole batch. My girlfriend came over and I cook a lot of things for her. She's got a lot of food allergies. She's have all these onions and they were tiny little ones. And I spent the 45 minutes and caramelized it, but I was just listening to um, a podcast. They were talking about adding water to it to speed up the caramelization or adding a touch of
Ah.
sugar. I don't know. I spent the 40 minutes stirring it. What can I
Yeah,
say?
yeah, yeah. I stood there too, stirring it. I put on NPR. I stirred and listened to the news. Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm going to rephrase the question from before with how I end the show, and maybe this is easier. What didn't I ask that I should have?
Um, well, I don't know what the question to this would be. Um, it's like opposite Jeopardy. I would say don't try to be perfect. Don't be perfect. It's not possible. So just think of something you can do, some change you can make that's easy. Don't think of the hard stuff like, oh, my contact lenses, the solution comes in plastic. How am I going to replace that? Well, don't worry about that. If you drink bottled water, but your tap water is fine, think of switching to tap water. There's a lot of microplastic in bottled water. There's a liter of bottled water has something like 240,000 pieces of microplastic in it. Yeah, it's crazy. So, think of the easy things you can do and start there. And you can't be perfect, so don't even worry about that. And and also that, these changes, they should be fun. I find all of this a lot of fun. I really enjoy it.
And what you can do with these scraps or what you have in the fridge, it's a nice challenge
Yeah,
too.
it is. It's like that show Chopped, where
Yeah.
the contestants are given the basket of super random items, and they have to cook an entree out of it. So it's like Chop, but no mean judges and no timer.
No timer. No, you take your time and do what you want to do.
Yeah.
Anne-Marie Bonneau, the Zero Waste Chef, I thank you so much, especially for joining us during Earth Week to remind people that we need to take care of Mother Earth in our own way, the little things, as we talked about, and, you know, and just cut back on the plastics.
Yeah. Yeah.
The-
Well,
Benj- Benjamin didn't listen to them, and we shouldn't either.
yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us. I have a couple of announcements. Have the rest of the week. May it be joyous and gorgeous weather for you out there in California.
Oh, thank
Thank
you,
you again.
Dara. Thank you for having me.
My
Bye.
pleasure. Bye.
Bye.
And okay, let's see. Okay, folks, check back with us in 2 weeks when we will be doing show number 283. When my guest will be Lucy M. Long, PhD. She's the director of the Center for Food and Culture. Lucy has authored numerous books: Culinary Tourism, Regional American Food Culture, Honey, A Global History of Comfort Food, meaning, okay, food food meanings and memories. I can't even read my own writing. And her just released book, which is Sweet Tart and Golden Apples in the Midwestern Imagination. If you need to reach me, my Instagram is at Dara Cooks. You can find me on Facebook. I have a Facebook page called The Food Enthusiast. And of course, you can go to jmoreliving.com And on the menu, there's a drop down under food. It says the Food Enthusiast, and you can find all our past shows there. Feel free to go back in and go through the 282 shows that are up there. And do share our show with friends and family. We appreciate it. Spread the word. And don't forget to, when you're on J More Living's website, on the foods section, you can sign up for a bi-monthly food newsletter with recipes and stories about what's going on in food, both locally and nationally. We truly appreciate it again when you share our show with friends and families. May your plates always, always remain full.